Chris, welcome to the Scania family.
Thank you very much. Looking forward to it.
So it's great to have you here. I've got a great sort of few months ahead as you get to learn the business, and I think we should have a few questions about Chris, the person.
Absolutely.
And a little bit about your first impressions as a company, and just for the kind of the world out there and our people at large. So I've got a first question for you. It's like, so tell us a little bit about you. Who's Chris?
Chris Newitt. Well, it depends where you want to go back. I mean, I could go all the way back to I was an absolutely massive baby, and as a consequence, I'm an only child. But that's probably a bit too far back. I'm married. I've got 3 daughters, ranging from some that should be out of the house but aren't, and to my youngest who's doing a GCSE. I've got 2 French bulldogs. I've got a classic car that was my father's, so to him it was just a car. There was no classic about it. That was the only car he had, and sadly when he passed, I inherited it. I love the kind of cinema and taking my daughter to the films and various other bits and pieces, but mostly I spend my time being a taxi driver, an entertainer. I like to say a chef, they'll say a cook. And looking after my family. And if I get a chance to do the odd bit of sport, if it was sport, it'd be golf. But I'm reasonably good at exercising and working out and keeping myself fit. But yeah, it's all thoroughly dull and family oriented. I'd love to say there was some sort of jet set, massively interesting bit, but there isn't. It's work hard and love spending time with my family.
That's good to hear. So you're joining us from a very illustrious British brand, Jaguar Land Rover. That must have, given you an awful lot of experience. How do you think that applies to your time at Scania?
I think it's going to be hugely useful. I mean, firstly, Scania from a pricing perspective and a brand perception perspective is absolutely up there in the same way as Jaguar Land Rover or Audi or BMW is, and so on and so forth. So I think from a brand positioning and the importance of the brand, it's absolutely vitally important and relevant. And I've done, a large number of roles and gained a huge amount of experience. Jaguar Land Rover is a relatively small company by global standards if you compare it to Volkswagen or Toyota or anything else. And so you learn a huge amount about adaptability. The current chip supply situation impacts someone like Jaguar Land Rover much greater than it does something like Volkswagen Group. Volkswagen can channel its chips to its most profitable area. Jaguar Land Rover can't. That's what it is. So I think it's going to be hugely useful. I started as a market sales director. I became a global sales director. And that global experience is like time travel. You can see the future. You can go to markets where they don't use cash. They don't use credit cards. Everything's done over the phone. It's 100% digitalized, whether that's a business-to-business sale interaction or whether it's a retail sales interaction. And then by UK standards, you can go to a market where Amazon delivers weekly rather than daily or hourly or this, that, and everything else. So I'm hoping to bring all of those experiences as we as a company and the motor industry moves forward into the future and faces some of its challenges.
You're joining a new sector. So you've spent most of your career in the passenger car side of automotive industry. Now you're joining heavy goods vehicle industry, transport industry. What's your first thoughts? Because it's quite different.
It is different, but if I take my global experience, actually, customers around the world and in different segments want fundamentally the same thing. So if you're customer oriented and you start from the customer, you end up, the solutions might be different based on the market or the industry that you're in, but the origin of what they want is often unifying. And the challenges that we face are industry-wide. The challenges of electrification are industry-wide. It doesn't matter whether it's a passenger car or a truck or a light good vehicle or a coach. It doesn't matter. It's the same challenge. And with electrification, the bit that actually I think the industry should be more concerned about, particularly the established manufacturers like Scania or Jaguar Land Rover, is the commoditization that brings. So much of our brand's histories, and Scania is the same. It's got V8 on the leather in the seats and everything else. It's part of its heritage. It's part of its magic. And as you move into electrification, where the battery for a whole number of trucks or cars. It could be a Panasonic battery, it could be an LG battery. It's no longer the differentiating factor. The brands have to find that piece of magic. And that's where I come back to being completely customer oriented. If you do that, then you can bring everything else to life off the back of that.
Let me ask you, what excites you about this new role?
First and foremost, I love learning new things, and it's going to be a fantastic learning experience. And that's not necessarily about the technicals, about the product and the different of the industry. It's going to be a different culture. It's a different way of doing things. And learning, I believe, brings the best out of people. That's why we have to keep on challenging ourselves and moving things forward. So that's tremendously exciting. But as I said earlier, some of the challenges that are industry-wide, you can view them as challenges or you can view them as opportunities. And I really do think for a brand such as Scania, there is a fantastic set of opportunities that it really can move forward and absolutely excel and deliver a brilliant set of results for its customers, for its employees, and for its shareholders. And that to me is a fantastic opportunity. This kind of change in the industry, we've had 100 years of the internal combustion engine. And then in a very short space of time, we're going to see an absolute transformation. And it's vital that we get it right for our customers because they rely on us. And one of the great things about joining Scania and this industry is it moves from a pleasurable purchase into a vital service that we provide for the economies of all the countries that Scania represents.
It's got a good segue into the next question, which is about the challenges that you think we face, as a company, but also maybe the challenges you think you'll face on your journey with Scania as well here.
It's a fascinating, personal journey to leave a company where you knew how to get everything done. And if you were a highly competent individual and you walk in and you don't even know where the toilets are. So that in itself starts a new journey for me. Luckily, that particular one should take quicker than growing up and being that it does when you're a child. But that's the excitement and the fundamentals of what is the opportunity that's out there. It's going to be a challenge. I've got to learn. I've got to be the world's largest sponge in terms of absorbing every piece of information that I can. But at the same time, as a leader, and that's why I've been appointed to this role, is to be a leader and to help and support and to challenge and to get people to potentially think differently. There are many, many ways that we can go about our business. And I hope I can help the staff and through the staff, the customers of Scania, have a better business result, have a better personal experience in their work-life balance, with their work experience and so on and so forth. And because that's what leaders do. And that's what I hope I can bring to this organisation.
That sounds really genuinely aligned. My perspective on Scania is it's very much a culturally driven business. It's a business of the people. And it's really important that we kind of focus on culture and that sort of human magic that kind of makes everything really work. You sound like you're quite motivated by sort of how people feel and the culture of businesses. Is that the case?
Absolutely. It is, how customers will forget what you did to them, but they'll never forget how you made them feel. And the same thing applies to employees. And so, when I joined Jaguar Land Rover, they didn't, at a market level, they didn't really have a strategy. And so we built a house, roof and pillars, and in the foundation, we put customer first. And I absolutely believe that is how you should go about building your business, based on the culture of the people and with customer first at the foundation. So it was absolutely fantastic as I was approached around this role, and you start doing research and you can see on the website a roof and pillars with customer first as the foundation, and culture trumps strategy all the time. And so we have to build that culture. We have to have a great strategy as well. So it's not to diminish it, but it has to be built on the foundations of a great culture and a great customer first ethos, which is part of that culture.
That's a fantastic statement. Culture trumps strategy. I'll take that one. Take that one home. Let me ask you, what actually attracted you to come and join Scania in the first place?
Again, I've touched on it. The brand is fantastic, and a long, long time ago, even when I worked for Volkswagen, I spent a reasonable amount of time in actually truck businesses. And the reason why I spent time there was because I could already see that their ethos towards customers and the way they approach customers was fundamentally different to the way the passenger car business did. And I liked what they did, and I wanted to learn more about it, and so on and so forth. So I spent some time in a Mercedes-Benz truck business. Sorry, it wasn't Scania, but I wasn't to know I was going to end up here. It was 18, 19 years ago now. And really learnt about their approach and how they went about business and so on and so forth. So to get an approach from a company such as Scania, there was an instant kind of attraction and a desire to know more. And then I started digging, and I started talking to people, and I spoke to a number of drivers who changed companies because the other company drove Scanias, and it meant they had a better environment in which they worked, and so on and so forth. So it was kind of almost an instant attraction as soon as or an instant curiosity that grew into a very rapid attraction towards it.
So what motivates Chris Newitt to get out of bed in the morning?
I've never really been one to be able to relax when there has been a job to do. So even at the weekends, much to my family's annoyance, I'll get up and try and get the jobs done. And then once the jobs are done, I can relax. And when you're in the automotive industry, and again, it doesn't matter which element of it, there are always jobs to do. I've been a performance director for the last 4 to 5 years, and my job has been to seek out areas whereby we can optimize the performance, whereby we can make it better, and so on and so forth. So I need very little motivation to get out of bed because there's always a way of optimizing. There's always a way of looking back and learning and saying, what did we think was irrelevant now, but the circumstances have changed and it's now become relevant. So things that didn't work in the past might now work brilliantly in the current set of circumstances. And I think, it's this balance between, if I use a different analogy, between climate change that the industry is facing and weather that the industry is facing. So the climate change is electrification, commoditization, urbanization, environmental legislation. Those are all the climate change. They're long term, and for that you have to think: if you were thinking in residential terms, do I need to put solar panels in? Do I need to move my house because I'm now on a floodplain? Do I need to do this? And then there are the weather things. The conflict with Russia, COVID, the chip supply situation, and so on and so forth. And you have to adapt. But in weather terms, you put your umbrella up, you put your coat on, you put this, that, and everything else. It doesn't change the climate direction that you've going on, but you have to adapt in the short term. And I think that's the key bits that are going to face us, because the world is just changing so fast. It will never change as slowly as it is changing today. It will only change faster and faster and faster. And understanding this difference between climate and weather will be absolutely vital.
What's the best piece of advice that you've ever been given?
Can I cheat and give 2? So the first bit isn't really advice, but it's a great summary of kind of life and business. And it was given to me when I was a marketing director, which is: success has 1,000 fathers and failure is an orphan. And no matter how many times I've lived my life, that is true. Your successes as an individual and as a team will be claimed by many. And when there's a failure, everyone else, no one will want to own up to that and everything else. So success has 1,000 fathers and failure is an orphan. And then the other bit, it relates to really as a leader and what's your role as a leader. And it's really to look at the organization, look at your team, look at who you're supporting and helping. And more often than not, you have to do the opposite of whatever the organization is doing. So where there is chaos, you have to provide organization. Where there is uncertainty, you have to provide confidence. Where there is relaxed and complacency. You have to provide energy and challenge and difference and so on and so forth. And I think those two bits of ethos and those two bits of advice have served me fantastically well as a leader in the business.
Great answer. And I think we'll call it quits.
I'll just say thank you very much. It's been great. All the questions, I've absolutely loved them. And I can't wait to start my first day and get to meet all the team and spend my time deeply immersed and enjoying the Scania way and the Scania family. So just for me, thank you for the time.
Thank you, Chris.